Time to see what the wizards are up to.
Hey, everybody. We're doing something a little bit different this week. Debbie is taking the morning off, and I am joined by fellow game designer, designer of Star Realms, and one of the founders of Wise Wizard Games, Darwin Kastle. Darwin, you are not a regular on our stream, but you are, of course, a regular in our company. We've been co-designing games for a super long time, and we're going to talk to people about how we met, how we design games, and develop games, etc. After we get to a little bit of our company business. If anybody has any questions for Darwin or for us, let us know. Last week we had a contest to win Kapow Volume 2. Kapow is a awesome game, super fun to play, fast, and we've just been having it at conventions, demoing, and people are just loving the heck out of it. So we got Kapow Volume 1 and 2, which we had on Kickstarter. Those are actually at the printer now. We're very excited to get those and get them out to backers, but we did a giveaway for Volume 2. And Alice B has won a free copy, so congratulations. And we've got a new contest this week. This is for Epic Tyrants. Tyrants is a set of 4 packs for Epic, and like all the Epic sets, great for draft, for sealed play, for constructed, and you can enter to win 4 packs of Tyrants free. And Saf will post in the comments on how to enter this week's contest. You can always enter our contest for free, and people can play from anywhere in the world. Darwin and I actually love playing Epic. That's a game that we've gotten a ton of enjoyment out of, and man, can you sink your teeth into that game from a strategy standpoint. And Darwin, you're playing the app on a regular basis, right?
Yeah, so I have mostly been playing Random 30 and Dark Draft recently. I like the fact that no matter what cards are available, I can just pick up and play right away. And there's just a lot of variety of how the games play out. And so I usually have, at least 2 or 3 games going at any given time. And that's in addition to my endless games of Star Realms and Hero Realms.
Yeah. And by the way, so yeah, Darwin is a regular in the apps. So, and he's pretty good about accepting challenges. Like, I definitely am in the apps, and I love to receive challenges. My username is Rob, but Darwin plays even more than I do. So you can always drop a challenge to username Darwin if you want to get some.
I have one of each character class in Hero Realms, and I try to keep at least 2 games with each character going. So I always have at least 10 games of Hero Realms going. And Star Realms, pretty much anytime it's not my move in a 48-hour game, I just start another one.
Yeah.
And I get challenges from random people pretty much every day, and I try and play them all as fast as I can. So I clear out my queue a couple times a day. So yeah, I play a ton. I must have at least 20 or 30 games of Star Realms going at any given time.
Yeah, and speaking of Star Realms and Hero Realms, we have Legends series events coming up at PAX East, and win these events are awesome because if you win the tournament, you actually get to become a card in the game. So and when you do that, so basically you play in the tournament, we've got like prizes for people who do well in the tournaments, awesome play mats for the top 8, and the community is just a ton of fun. Everybody is super nice at these events, and we've got a phenomenal community on Board Game Geek and the Facebook fan pages, etc. These tournaments are a great place for people to get together and hang out. But if you win the tournament, you get to become a card in the game, and you actually work with Darwin. Darwin is, among other things, our lead art director. So basically, whenever we need a piece of artwork in the games, and when we make card games, we need a lot of art. Darwin is sort of deciding what the overall look of the card's going to be, and working with artists, giving them an art brief, working with the artists back and forth. And so with the Legends, we have a process where you take pictures of yourself with certain lighting, etc., that you send in to Darwin. Darwin works with the artist to make a card in your likeness, and then eventually those cards get worked into the game, and of course physical printing, and then of course eventually into the digital as well. So that's I think that's the neatest prize possible for a tournament.
So while I do the lead design on the cards that end up being made into Legends cards, I'll typically reach out to the winner to find out what their favorite factions are, and if it's Hero Realms, do they want to be like an elf or an orc or a human, that type of thing. And if it's Star Realms, we find out what faction they prefer, and I'll like try and get an idea of what mechanics they like. So the card, you're more involved in the process than just having your face in the art, although obviously being in the art is a really big deal. And we provide the artist with photographs of you and tell them to portray you in your best possible light.
Or if you want to be a little bit a little blobby, we could also portray in your worst possible light if you want.
Yes, I don't have too many Legends winners request to be portrayed as blobs, but I'm sure we could work on that if that was important.
Oh yeah.
I just want to take this opportunity to plug the fact that I stream Star Realms every Saturday at 11 a.m. because we were talking about how awesome the community is. And I get a reminder of that every Saturday because I've got a big crew of people who show up at 11 a.m. Eastern time on our Twitch channel. And I play Star Realms. You challenge me. If you beat me, you get 100 credits. And got lots of cool people in the chat talking up and making jokes, recently talking about cheese fondue a lot, just generally having a good time, and usually at least a couple people beat me each week. So we give out at least a couple hundred credits every Saturday. So anyone who hasn't already tried it, give it a try. Come join us on Twitch at 11 a.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, and we also stream Hero Realms Wednesday night at 7 p.m. I'm there every other week. Darwin's there every other week. But yeah, it's a great opportunity to just play some games, hang out with us in chat. You can ask any questions you want on the on the comments while we're playing, and I don't know about you, Darwin, but I often get focused on my game and have to remember to go over and look at the comments. So
I actually have the opposite problem. I get so busy talking about answering the questions in the chat and talking about random design thoughts I had. Like I'll make a play, I'll be like, well, when I designed this card, I kind of was thinking this and stuff. And then like I'll end up losing the game because I wasn't paying enough attention to the game. So I actually have the opposite problem of you because like, I'm here to entertain, Rob, not just to beat people down.
Oh man, is that what we're supposed to be doing?
Maybe that's why I have such a big following on Saturdays, Rob.
Yeah, okay. That's fair. Bill, I mean, I just need to concentrate to have a chance. So yeah.
Yes, I'm able to multitask in that way. I'm pretty good at giving the beat down even with only half my attention.
So in the Star Realms app, we're going to actually be having some downtime Thursday, 11 p.m. to midnight. Just scheduled maintenance. So the app won't be live during that brief window, but we should be coming right back up afterwards. If you come on the app and it's not working, it's just that main. Excuse me.
I just also want to shout out the comments here. Agent C13, I can attest he has beaten me at Hero Realms many times. He's a
I believe I got a beat down recently from.
I also want to give a shout out to Darwin Kastle, who last Wednesday won 3 Star Realms in-app tournaments back to back to back. So
wow,
nice job, Daryl.
So speaking of the Star Realms tournaments, I really enjoy playing in the Saturday weekly championship. Lots of really great players there. Throw that comment back up. Sorry, I missed that one.
Speaking of Saturday tournaments, my favorite tournament is the one at 8 a.m. on Saturdays. Is Cosmic Chaos, where it uses every single card in the trade deck. But recently, we've been falling just short of 16 players. So this is me putting it out there. I'd love to have a few more players show up for our 8 a.m. Eastern Time tournament on Saturdays.
Nice. Yeah, so if you're in Europe or Australia, those are much friendlier times for you. Okay, so we got a question about Sorcerer Endgame, Hero Realms Dungeons, Star Realms command decks. Sorcerer Endbringer is we are currently in the process of doing edits based on backer feedback. We got a lot of great feedback from people who from both our internal playtesters, but also a ton of feedback from backers who've been playing on Tabletop Simulator. We put all the content up on Tabletop Simulator, and people have been kicking the tires. Got lots of great feedback, so we're doing edits on that and basically getting all those applied and ready to submit files to the printer. Hero Realms Dungeons tentatively going to be we pushed the Kickstarter back to this summer. Main reason for that is we are we're changing our system so that instead of designing a game, getting some art and having the concept ready, but the development not done and still some things to design. That's normally when we brought stuff to Kickstarter. Like, okay, here's our idea for what we want to do. We're bringing it to Kickstarter. People like it, back it, and then we continue working on it. Then get it. Then send it to the printer, etc. And that's really cool because we get a lot of feedback from the community, and we're able to sort of tweak the game based on backer feedback, etc. However, we tend to be perfectionists and really want to, get things right, and we will redesign if necessary to get the play exactly where we want it to be. So we can't say for sure exactly how long that process will take. So, we have our estimated dates, and sometimes we're good on those, but other times we redesign, add content, make it more and more awesome, but it pushes ends up pushing the date back. That in combination with the recent craziness with COVID, where we don't know how long the factories will take on things, we don't know how long shipping will take, we don't know how long the ports will take, has really stretched things out. So we wanted to remove a little bit of the uncertainty of the process. So we've decided to do our Kickstarters now, where basically we get things ready to go to print, and then we push things to then we'll go to Kickstarter once we're ready to send the files to the printer. So basically Dungeons long since has been at the point where we previously would have been able to bring it to Kickstarter, but we've decided to wait, finish it out, and then put it out. But Dungeons has a lot of really awesome content. Darwin and I have been having a ton of fun playing with the Dungeons deck, playing with the new characters, etc. So I think you guys are gonna love that set. It is super, super cool.
I agree. Also, I see someone asks in the comments about the Black Dragon promo for Epic card game. So we haven't made that card yet, but the plan is to make add that promo card to the queue of things to do and release it at a convention, sometime over the next year. And then the next thing that would happen after that, presumably, would be adding it to the digital game.
Yeah,
that answers the question.
Yeah. So basically, we'll have the physical card, probably at the summer conventions. And as Darwin said, we are continuously adding sets of Epic to the digital app over time. And we'll just work the dragon in one of those sets. We'll probably, for those of you who can't make it to conventions, it's very likely we'll put that card up on the Board Game Geek store, so that people can, people who can't make it to the show can still get it, order it. But if you're at the show, hey, come by the booth, you'll get it for free. So yeah, we love having some cool giveaways at the booth. Speaking of promo cards, we're actually working on Star Realms Promo Pack 2. So basically, we have the Star Realms Promo Pack. Star Realms Promo Pack 1 is a great set of cards for Star Realms. Includes some really powerful cards like the Ark, what we do with our promo cards. We'll have exclusive promo cards on Kickstarters. We'll have them at conventions, giveaway, etc. And then eventually, so we'll leave it like that. Okay, they're exclusive cards, and you have to get them through that way for years. And then we get new artwork for those cards, and then we put them together into a promo pack and make them available at retail. So if you just, for the game mechanic purposes, to have that card in your collection to play, you will be able to get them through the promo pack. Now they'll have different artworks from the original. So if you have the original you got through a Kickstarter or from a convention, it's still special and cool because it's got that original artwork. But you don't have to worry about missing out on a card. Eventually, those cards will come in the form of a promo pack, and we're taking a bunch of promos from back in the day and making them available in Star Realms Promo Pack 2. I believe we have about 20 cards selected out for that one, and of course there will be a Star Realms Promo Pack 3, and we're going to be working on a Hero Realms Promo Pack 1 pretty soon. So basically, those cool old cards that if you missed out on them, you'll be able to see them in stores in those promo pack forms. So Darwin, we actually met, like, what year was it?
So I don't like to think that many years in the past. I know lots of people who weren't alive back when you and I met, but we actually met in Philadelphia, which was really interesting because we both lived in the Boston area at the time. You actually owned a game store in Cambridge, and I lived actually in Boston. But I was at a Magic US Nationals tournament for Magic the Gathering in Philadelphia, and you were just tearing it up with a really innovative deck. And a good mutual friend of ours, Dave Humphreys, introduced us, because I was like, who is this guy who's crushing everyone with that really cool deck? And he introduced me. And at the time, I was looking to meet more top players in the area to work with. And conveniently, you lived near me. So that was where it all started.
Yeah, so Darwin and I both loved playing Magic the Gathering. That particular tournament was back in the super early days. I heard that I had picked up Magic. I had been at the Gen Con where Magic was released, but I didn't pick it up. I heard about it and I was like, oh, that sounds like a scam. Like you get game pieces by buying them separately and bring them together. It sounds like whoever spends more money wins. That seems like the dumbest thing ever. So I wasn't interested at all. But I had a friend who, reviewed games, and I respected their opinion, and they told me, "Hey, you gotta try this game." And I was like, "No, that sounds terrible." And they're like, "No, try the game." So I went out and I bought like a starter deck and a couple packs, and another friend of mine decided to do the same thing, and we're like, "Oh, we'll just get this much and play together so we can try the game without like any kind of like escalation." And fell in love immediately, and started collecting cards, etc. And then I was at Northeastern University at the time. I started playing at tournaments that were there's a gaming group at MIT, which was a nice walk away from where I was at school. And I would go there and I would play Magic with their groups, and they started running tournaments. And I played in a ton of those, and like I won every single tournament I played in there. And then they started having divisions where I was like, oh, you can play with all common cards or with rare cards. I'd start playing with it in the common tournaments. And then I challenged the winner of the other one afterwards. And it had a ton of fun with that. But I was really excited when I heard about the national championship that was at this event, because it was like, oh wow, that'd be people really into Magic. And it was great because like there were people there who were better than me, and that was awesome. Getting my butt kicked at the game, because I was super into it, and I was unaware of like the local community that of events that Darwin was playing in. So Darwin had been playing in a bunch of tournaments leading up to that.
So when the Magic Pro Tour started, I was sponsored by a store in Hudson, Massachusetts, which had a bunch of top players. Like the guy who won the first Pro Tour played at that store. A couple of guys who made top 8 at the first Pro Tour were sponsored by that store. Like Massachusetts was a real force in the first Pro Tour. And after things got going and I was top 8ing a couple Pro Tours, Rob and I were becoming pretty good friends, and we were preparing for Pro Tours together. I said, hey, you have a store. Like, why don't you sponsor me instead? So instead of being one of many people sponsored by this store in Hudson, Massachusetts, I could be sponsored by you. And our friend Dave Humphreys could too. And it was very exciting when you decided to take the plunge, and your Move Games started sponsoring its own Magic team, and I was one of the founding members.
Yeah, so I had a game store in Somerville, Massachusetts, which is on the subway system for Boston. Is on at the Tufts University stop, and like couple stops down were Harvard and MIT, and just tons and tons of colleges. So basically, it's a great town to have a game store in, because lots and lots of gamers, and we had tons and tons of really smart people in the area. So I had been been playing the game. I had been collecting a lot of cards. I was a poor college student, so I started selling cards to basically pay for more cards. And that I was into that early, and man, did that snowball. I ended up basically making a lot of money selling cards online, but it's got a little more difficult to buy cards in bulk without having a physical game store. So I opened a physical game store mainly as an excuse to continue my online business. I thought, oh, my friends will come and hang out in, in this little space. I'll have a couple tables. I was into Warhammer, the miniature game. So, I had some Warhammer stuff and I had the Magic cards and so I thought, oh, my friends will hang out and I'll do process my online orders. And, maybe occasionally someone will walk in and come to the store. Actually leading when I was working on the store, I'd rented the space and was working on the shop. I was at one of those weekly games at MIT, and there was a guy there from the Boston Globe who was doing an article on Magic, they were interviewing people at this game night. And one of my friends, Ricardo, said, "Oh, you should definitely talk to Rob. He's working on opening up a game store." So the person talked to me, and I didn't think anything of it. And but I had told him, where I was opening up the store and where and when I was going to open it. And the article ended up being printed the day I opened the store, and it was on the front page of one of the sections of the paper. So there were so there's a big front page article with pictures of Magic, and there was a big section with me being interviewed in it and saying, Rob Dougherty, who's opening a game store in Davis Square, Somerville today, in the article. So there were people walking around the town with this newspaper looking for this mysterious game store that was opened up. So I ended up having tons and tons of people coming in. And I had a ridiculous selection of Magic cards because I had been, buying the stuff from very early on in large quantities, and had this online store. And I ended up, basically shutting down my online sales because I was selling so much in person. So that's how the whole game store thing started. And so basically, love of Magic was a big piece of it. And so meeting Darwin and Dave through through Magic, and then when Darwin suggested doing the Magic team out of the store, that sounded like a lot of fun, and that worked out really well because Darwin and Dave are just phenomenal players, and turns out winning a lot makes a lot of people want to join your team. So.
Yeah, and that decision was further, made to look good when Rob, Dave, and I won the first Team Pro Tour.
Yeah, so Darwin and Dave had a lot of success early on. I did pretty well in the events, but not as well as those guys. I had some top 16s, top 32s, but then we won the first Team Pro Tour together. And I started doing really well in the constructed Pro Tours. I was okay in the draft and the sealed. I loved them; they're a lot of fun. But I didn't have any breakout successes there. But Darwin and Dave definitely did. But on the constructed side, where you could build your deck ahead of time, I really loved tinkering with decks and building cool decks. I ended up getting second place in a constructed Pro Tour, and a third and a fourth and a fifth. And then of course we had the team win. Meanwhile, Darwin, I think we had 9 top 8s. Was it 10? I can't remember.
Who's counting? It's hard to count that high. But the first example of Rob and I doing business together was at some point Rob decided that he wanted someone else to be the manager for his store besides him, and I was available. So I worked for Rob as the manager at Your Move Games. That was the first example of us working together in an actual business sense.
So and this thing where we basically played games, played Magic together, and we would work on Magic decks for upcoming events. And one of the great things about Darwin working at the game store is previously he had been in sales and he had a good job and liked his job, but all day long he'd be thinking about various Magic decks and like, scrawling little notes on the sides of paper or whatever, and just wanted to get out of work so he could like, build those decks and try them out. And working at the game store, he could just build the decks in the middle of the day, and people come in, to the store, and you play games over the counter with people, and we have lots of friends who would come and hang out with us at the stores. And of course, Darwin and I would play against each other a lot, especially in preparation for events, and that's really where our sort of game design, game development partnership really started. In that we basically were working on decks for new formats for the Pro Tour. And when you're playing a game at a super competitive level, you're almost doing game development or game testing. Like basically the goal of building a constructed deck in one of these events is not to have really fun games. It's to have really, really unfair games. So basically you're trying to figure out like a deck you can build, which will give you an easy victory over your opponent, make the game really lopsided in your favor, and crush it. That's basically what you're trying to do, which is kind of like testing a game. So basically, we're trying to find stuff that the people who designed and developed the game miss. Like, oops, if you do this and this and this together, you win in a completely unfair fashion. Great for you as a player who's trying to win games. Terrible for gameplay. But that's sort of the thing we're trying to do. And so basically, we would work on decks back and forth and get really good at rapidly figuring out, okay, this is good, this isn't, this is working, that's not. And that process was honed over years and years and years of playing these, working on decks for professional events and playing them. And so when we started working on games, our own games that we were making for fun, we could look at them from the super competitive angle and try and make those unfun, unfair things happen so that we could win games versus each other, because we're super competitive and then we like to beat each other down. And then we would then fix those things so that they would basically remove them from the game. So that made developing games sort of a natural thing for us, where basically we could balance them to be playable at a very high level without breaking down. Because if there were any holes that we could find, and exploit in the games, we would do that and use them against each other to win a bunch of games in our testing sessions. And then we go, okay, how do we fix this particular problem? It's clearly, that's not fun, or that's breaking the game.
Yeah, when you are working on decks in Magic, your goal is to find things that break the game, which is really more terminology that seems almost more relevant to developing a game.
Yeah.
And so when we would create game-breaking decks, we were sort of almost demonstrating mistakes the developers of Magic made. And so learning the kind of things we want to avoid when we were designing games is, we want you to be able to do fun and powerful things, but we also want to keep it fair and reasonable too.
Yeah. I mean, basically, that's the thing. Like, basically, is the thing you're doing fun, both for you and for your opponent? Now, obviously, if you're losing a game, it's it's harder to have fun in a competitive game. But basically, if you can do cool things and they can respond in various ways, so you have a sort of a back and forth and ebb and flow. What you want to avoid is non-interactive, easy victories. So those aren't fun for they're not fun for the person who's losing, because they can't do anything about it, and they're not particularly satisfying for the person who's winning. There's that brief satisfaction of, oh, cool, I figured out a way to do something awesome and powerful. But after a while, if it's just like do A, do B, you win, that's not very fun or challenging. So
yeah. I've lost track of the number of Star Realms games where in the end I ended up losing, but I was like, wow, while I hate that I lost that game, it was so fun and exciting and so close that like I still really had an awesome time even though I lost. And that's really we don't want you to lose every time, but we want the experience to be that exciting and that fun, whether you win or lose.
Yeah, indeed. All right, I'm gonna grab a couple comments here. Is there a date for the third part of the Sandar campaign in Hero Realms? We don't have a solid date for it yet, but that set is very close to done. I believe we have all the artwork for that set done, Darwin. Correct me if I'm wrong, but and the sets are designed.
The art's done, the set's done, or well, the set's mostly done. A lot of it just comes down to when we decide to launch the Kickstarter that it's going to be a part of.
Yeah. This will probably that set will probably be an add-on in the Kickstarter this summer. It's possible we might come out with it before then, but basically we've got some we're in this sort of refinement stage in that set. So basically soon, and that'll of course have
soon in our terms.
And that'll of course have new treasures for your characters, which will in turn increase how high a level you can be in the digital app for Hero Realms. We have I'm having a little bit of difficulty with my comment scrolling here. Sorry, Deb's going to grab some comments for me. Nova Collection. We're right now in the everything for the Nova Collection is done, and with the printer, we are in the process of trying to get a date from the printer. So basically, the printers book time on their machines. We're sort of wrestling with the printer right now, trying to get our printing started. So all the cards, the boxes, etc., all the files are in the printer, and I'm basically on email with the printer on a daily basis. We should have an answer very soon on the start date for that. Now, that printing is going to take a while because of the drawing process for the foil cards. Quality with the Deluxe Nova is paramount, and we don't want them to rush the process. So I want to get it started, but I don't want them to rush through. So I'll have a time as soon as I have a time. I'll be posting an update. Let's see. So do we still find Magic the Gathering something to go back to and enjoy? Games like Epic, Arkham Horror, LCG, and other different games are why I love modern day card games. So I don't know about Darwin, but I basically every once in a while I go back into Magic. Like I'll check out a new set, like play in a pre-release, or play with someone who played in a pre-release and brought back cards, or I'll jump on like the Magic online, which I believe is Arena. Jump on the Arena app and play some games. So I'll play sort of for a little bit and have fun with it. So I definitely enjoy it and dabble occasionally. Playing competitively requires a pretty massive time investment to basically build those like top level decks and such. So I tend not to play at the top level, but I definitely have fun checking the game out, and I can enjoy just playing random games, for fun with people. It's a brilliant game, has wonderful mechanics. I don't know about you, Darwin.
Personally, I haven't played Magic in quite a long time. Part of it is because we are now so much more than Star Realms. We have so many games now. We've got Star Realms and Hero Realms and Epic and Sorcerer and Kapow. And for the deeper strategy games, I like to really dive in and be one of the top players. Like when I played Magic the Gathering, I was striving to be, at the time, the Tiger Woods of Magic Gathering, and that required me to play every single day and a lot. Like, you just can't dabble to play at that level. I'm perfectly fine dabbling at a game like Ticket to Ride or Words with Friends, but for a deeper strategy game like Epic or Star Realms or Magic, I really like to be one of the best players, and so I just really prioritize our games at the moment. So I just play so much Star Realms and so much Hero Realms and so much Epic that I at best I'd be able to dabble in Magic. And frankly, like I like our games better. I mean, obviously I played Magic for over 10 years, so it's not like Magic's not a great game, but I just I like our games better.
Yeah. So just a quick answer to this question on the foil shop. I'll talk to the digital team about it. The idea with the foil shop is they're supposed to cards are supposed to rotate into the foil shop in Star Realms. Basically, if we introduced a card, I can't remember the time period, but let's say a year ago, okay, this is something you can win. A year later, it comes into the foil shop, and basically stuff it rotates into the shop, into your personal view of the shop, each day. So, like this old card is here now, or that old card. But basically, cards should be being added to the foil shop at the same rate that they are released. It's just with a time delay. So basically, you can win a card. It's the only way you can get it for a while, and then it'll appear in the shop. It may be that that's not functioning properly, or it may be you're just not being lucky and seeing the newer stuff when the random cards get added.
Also, it's possible. I don't know without investigating further, but it's possible this particular question is something specific about your version of the app or your device or whatever. And if you email support@wisewizardgames.com, we can give you more personalized help with it. I mean, nothing wrong with asking the question here, but that might actually be more helpful for your purposes.
All right, we've got a rules question. Is Needle Lancer's copy ability supposed to copy just an ally ability, or copy and immediately use an ally ability? So basically, in the app, it's copy and immediately use for is what we want it to do, basically to reduce the number of clicks that you have to do. So basically, when you choose to copy an ally ability, it will, do it immediately. So one of the things.
Are you saying that's different than in the paper game, Rob?
Well, in the paper game, when you trigger an ally ability, you can use it whenever whenever you want. I'd have to check the wording on the card, but basically, it may be that on the paper version you could copy an ability and then wait and then use it later in that same turn. Again, I'd have to check the wording.
Yeah, and I'm not sure functionally how big a difference there is. The main concern I would think with that sort of situation is with a ally scrap ability. So would you be able to copy a card that has an ally scrap ability that then scraps and it's no longer around?
Yeah, so basically once you I have to check the timing rules, but for playing over the kitchen table or whatever, it'd be fine to say, all right, I'm copying this ability, this ally ability here, and then use it later, use it later in the turn, as long as both players agree with how it works. As far as like and no, we got a thank you for the Hydra head tokens. You're welcome. So basically, we try and, when people ask for various stuff like that, we try and when we have a little bit of time on our graphic designers side, we try and make those resources and put them up on our websites. So the thing we were talking about earlier, where how we like to play the strategy games. One of the cool things about designing games is we make the games the way we want them to play. So a lot of that itch that would be scratched by playing a game like Magic when we were younger, we've built the things that we loved best about those styles of games into the games that we make. So like playing Star Realms, like Darwin's original design for Star Realms, like really feels great to a player who likes that kind of competitive head-to-head play.
Yeah, I think my experience as a Magic player heavily influenced the design of Star Realms in that deck building games were a little bit newer genre than trading card games at that point. Um, but so not all the different major design avenues had been explored yet with deck building games. And while I really like deck building games, I didn't find them to be interactive enough. And so the big thing I borrowed from Magic was the concept of each player having a score and you're trying to reduce the opponent's score to 0. That's pretty common in deck building games now, but at the time that wasn't a thing that was done. And I felt that could make the game a lot more interactive and have a much more climactic endpoint to the game, as opposed to something more arbitrary like, okay, this number of turns are done, or this number of stones have been moved, or whatever. Like oh my gosh, you're almost at 0, I'm almost at 0. Like that made for a much more exciting climax and a much more clear endpoint. And that was something that I was used to from Magic, is you each had a score that you were trying to reduce your opponent's score to 0. And so adding that to a deck building game and creating Star Realms, that definitely was an influence I took from Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, so that competitive play, so that's something when Darwin Darwin was looking for work in the game industry. Had done some work in the game industry and was like trying to get a job. At the time, I was working. I was doing Ascension with Justin Gary, and I had suggested to Darwin, hey, make a game, and then you can shop it around to people, and it's kind of like you might sell the game. 2, it's working on your resume at the same time.
It's kind of like a cover letter to bring to game companies to show them, look at this cool game I designed. Don't you want to hire me? And if you hire me, you could even publish this game. And I was going on a tour of different game companies. I drove up and down the West Coast, stopping at different major game companies, doing interviews, because I knew I'd gotten a taste of working. First, I did some work for Upper Deck Entertainment, working on their versus superhero games. And then Rob started his own game company with a mutual friend, Chad. So I drove back to the East Coast so I could work with my buddies working for their company. So that was my first taste of working at a game company with Rob. And then Rob started another game company for the Epic card game. And I followed him there, and we were for a while we were pretty much the only 2 dudes at that company. So we really got an experience of working side by side on all aspects of a game company there. So when Rob was suggesting that this game I had designed just to show game companies was so good that, well, if they don't want to publish it, maybe we should make our own company and publish it. I knew Rob was a good person for it because he'd already run 2 game companies, and I'd already worked with him in many capacities and knew we worked well together. And I didn't have the knowledge to do it without Rob. So I'm like, yes, let's do it.
Yeah, so basically, so Darwin took Star Realms to, an early version of Star Realms to some companies and showed it off. And, they were nice and like polite and everything, but no takers. And I had said, hey, let's work on it. Maybe we can play it. We can tweak it a little. Like, hey, we can do some development on your game, and then you can try again and pitch around places. And we played it and then made some modifications and made some modifications. And one of the things about Darwin and I working on a game together is all those years and years and years and years of playing competitive games and working on decks together. We got to the point where we were really fast at development. Like we'd try things a couple times and be like, all right, we know what needed to change, tweak. And we went back and forth on the early Star Realms, like tweaking, modifying. And man, that game got really good, really fast. And I was like, hey, we could just do this together. But at the time, I was pretty tapped out because I was working with Ascension, and I had heavy investment, financial investment into that company. And my sort of side job of running events for I had run events for Wizards of the Coast, running Magic tournaments and such, and that they were sort of changing the structure on how events work. So I had less work in that area and multiple kids and et cetera, in a house and a mortgage. So I was like, oh, this looks like a really cool game. We could make this, but I need a partner to in this. Not just like, okay, cool game. I'll buy it from you and pay you something, and what you work for me as an employee. I was like, we could do this, but we really need to team up. Like, work on this together, scrape our pennies into a big pile.
And a key part of this was when these sorts of games were just starting to get popular as gaming apps, not just physical games. So when I designed Star Realms, one of the things I kept in mind was making a design that would adapt well to digital play. And conveniently, when Rob and I were discussing starting business, I happened to know a really good app designer who was a fan of Ascension, which Rob was one of the owners of, and I had done some development work on. So he had told me that, hey, if you and Rob ever want to design your own game, I would love to get involved and do the digital side of it. So I was able to say, hey, Rob, I know a guy who can do the digital part for us to be a third partner. And that was Tanthor Jen. And that really sort of turbocharged things, knowing that we were going to be able to release it as both a physical game and digital game, knowing we had a strong digital partner.
Yeah, and that led to so then we got a minor partner, basically a graphic designer who was willing to do basically work for a little bit of credit. And Vito Giswaldi, he did amazing job with the graphic design.
So to be clear, Rob, we don't pay people in credit. He was actually getting a percentage of the company. I don't want people people to think that we are actually having unpaid employees.
No. Yeah, basically, sorry. By credit, I meant ownership. So we had four of us going working together on this project. And brought it to Kickstarter. So that was the origin of the first Kickstarter for Star Realms, and we had phenomenal response to that. And that was a huge success from our perspective at the time, but obviously much smaller than the stuff we've done since then. But when the game came out, we could not print it fast enough to get it into people's hands. Yes, that was a wonderful experience. And basically, we do the same kind of development stuff on Hero Realms and Epic and all the games we make. That sort of super rapid fire development where we're tweaking the game super quickly as we're going. So we often had play testers, which we'd give copies of the game to, and they'd play and give us feedback. But by the time the feedback got into us, we'd iterated the game so many times, like, oh yeah, none of this is actually relevant anymore. But Darwin and I working on the game together is a lot of fun, and just a very super fast development.
Well, I just want a quick answer one of the questions here in the comments. Andrew asked if we have any plans to introduce an undo button for Star Realms, and I'm going to answer just because I happen to actually know the answer. So when we first made the first couple versions of the Star Realms Digital, it didn't occur to us to make an undo button, or we discussed it and said, nah, we don't need that. And it seemed fine. It was popular. But when we made the Epic app, we felt that Epic was a little more complex game. So we finally said, yeah, this game really needs an undo button. And it worked really well. And I was real happy with it. So then when we decided to make Hero Realms, which, has a lot of similarities to Star Realms, we're like, well, now that we know how to put an undo button in a game, let's try it in Hero Realms too. And sure enough, it's been really great in the Hero Realms app. So now I'm like, wow, it's so awesome. I never thought I'd need it, but now I kind of want one in Star Realms now that I'm used to one in Hero Realms. So I talked to the digital team about it. And apparently it's one of those things that it's not just something you can slap on to the code. Like, it needs to be baked into the core of the code. So if there's a point when we completely rebuild Star Realms, because we've done it once, so it's not that there's no chance we'll ever rebuild the code for Star Realms. If we do that, sure, we'll put an undo button in, but that's not imminent. That's not going to happen anytime soon. So plan on there not being an undo button in Star Realms anytime soon. And if you really need your undo fix, try Hero Realms or Epic, because they're there and it works great. And I feel you at this. While I'm used to there not being an undo button in Star Realms, if we rebuild it, we 100%.
Yeah, it's a feature that we love in that we've added to Hero Realms that we love. But as Darwin said, it was baked in from the beginning of the Hero Realms app. It's easy for us to add, easy for us to put in when we were starting from scratch. But basically, it would require a complete teardown and rebuild of the infrastructure of Star Realms Digital to put it in. So it's going to be part if and when we do a full new build, then the undo button will be a part of it. But yeah, unfortunately, it's going to be a little bit on that one. But yeah, Darwin and I would love it too. And that's one of the things that drives our digital apps are, what do we love? What do we what play are we enjoying, and how do we make it better?
So I see Brain Games has been commenting on some of the many games that I've worked on, and including the fact that I was the original game designer for Tic-Tac-Toe. And I'm really frustrated that I haven't gotten any of my royalties for that yet. And also points out I was an original beta tester for Hide and Seek. And I'm glad someone noticed, because I never seem to get any credit for that.
Oh, man. So I think we had a question on a cooperative version of Epic. So we don't currently have plans to add a cooperative format in the Epic Digital. So, but it's it's certainly so basically our digital team has a wish list of things we would love to do if we had infinite resources, infinite time, and a cooperative mode for Epic Digital, would definitely be on that list of things that we would love to do. But it's to be honest, it's pretty far down on the list. We've got a lot of big things we're doing with, like the Hero Realms digital app and implementation, and sets for Star Realms, and and getting those new cards into Epic, etc. So yes, it would be very cool. It's kind of on our wish list, but the digital team has limited time, and we got to basically prioritize things to get to keep the games moving. Melvin staff. I can't remember that card off the top of my head, Darwin. I don't know.
I might have to Google that. Like, it's funny. Obviously, that's from one of our games, but at this point, we've designed so many hundreds and hundreds of cards that we don't always know how a card works off the top of our head, unless it's a card that's coming up in digital all the time.
Yeah, that happens to me a lot. Like, basically, someone will ask me a rule, and it's on a rule book that I wrote. Like, I write pretty much all our rule books, so like basically, yeah. But I'll have to like go back and review my notes and to figure out how how that interaction works. So we'll have to I'm sorry, I can't remember the card.
Yeah, sadly, the Googling it hasn't been real helpful.
So you just ping an email to support at wisewizardgames.com, and then they'll shoot that question to us. We'll answer it that way.
Yeah. It's not that we can't find out the answer; we just don't have that answer off the cuff.
Oh boy.
The Malvin staff is from the campaign.
Yeah.
And the lead designer on the campaign is a fellow named Danny Mandel from Super Awesome Games. And I guess what will have to happen is Rob will have to have Danny as one of his guests on one of these future streams, because I'm sure Danny will be like,
"Oh, Malvin's on before, but I'm sure we'll have him back."
Because if I had designed that card, I'd be able to tell you what it does.
Oh man. If anybody else will be wrapping up shortly, so if anybody has any last minute questions, you can throw them in. Darwin, you can take a look at the comments and see if there's anything that you want to, anything you see you wanted to pipe in on. But yeah, it's been fun having going down memory lane, talking a little bit about our process, I'm sure we'll have Darwin back on in the future to do more chatting about the apps.
I'll be streaming Hero Realms tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern time on Twitch and on our Wise Wizard Games channel, and then I'll be doing Star Realms again this Saturday, as I previously mentioned. So, it's not like you only get to see me when I'm one of Rob's guests. You have another opportunity if you really want to see more of me.
Let's see. Do we have any plans to introduce item equipment cards for Epic, like persistent buffs for champions? This is actually a category of thing that we've thought about for Epic. It's especially potentially neat for digital like campaign play. You could have we thought about having things like Necromancer's Necklace, which creates a zombie at the beginning of every turn, or there's all kinds of cool effects that you could have. One of the on that sort of magical wish list of infinite things that I'd like to do, having a bunch of sort of treasures that you could have in Epic, which would sort of modify your your gameplay in some way, and potentially being able to stack them up and have combos of them and stuff could be super cool. So potential fodder for a future expansion. Obviously, we could do that in physical as well. But no immediate plans, but it's something that I've put thought into, and I think is a really interesting potential for the for Epic card game. All right, folks. Thanks everybody for listening. Darwin, thanks for joining the stream.
Thanks for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. All right. Thanks everybody.